I call this regular meeting of the Village of Villa Park Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Roll call. Calvert.
Here.
Hofstra. Here. Jackson. Case. Ludke.
Here.
Orlowski.
Here.
Romano.
Here.
Schlinsky. Here. I too am present. With that, we have roll call. We have approval of minutes. Anybody have any questions, comments, amendments to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of 1/12/2023?
So moved.
Motion second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. So we have one item of business this evening. Before we get started, I want to explain to everybody how the process works. We will start with staff input, then the presentation of the petitioner, if they have one. Then we'll move to public participation and questions. That's where anybody from the audience, if they want to speak, they're welcome to come up to the podium here and speak. You'll have about 3 minutes, give or take. I'll try to be flexible, but don't run over. If you have somebody ahead of you that said exactly what you think, you can say, I think exactly what they think. I just want you to know that, and we'll hear that. Then we'll move to questions from the commission, which is up here, closing comments of the petitioner if they have any, and then we'll move to discussion up here and a motion this evening if necessary. So what I would ask is if you think you're going to speak this evening, if you think there's even a chance, stand now, raise your right hand and be sworn in. And then I won't have to swear everybody in individually later. So I say, if you think there's even a chance you want to comment. Because otherwise you'll have to do it up here by yourself. It's a little more awkward that way. There you go. That's what I thought. All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give this evening is the truth and nothing but the truth? Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you. That's funny. So the first item of business is PZ 220016 for 721 East Madison Street, PIN number 0615200044, for a special use for a museum or cultural center and a special use for a religious assembly in the OR Office Research District. Petitioner Aul Bai Cultural Center NFP. One thing that I do want to remind everybody of before we get too far into this is we have a court reporter. She's recording all this in a transcript just like in a court. So please, no outbursts. Let's not cheer, clap, boo, talk over each other. If you're up here, it's your time to talk. If you're over here, it's your time to talk. Up here is our time to talk. But she has to capture all this for a public record that could, in theory, end up in court if there's anything happens with the project. All right. We'll start with staff input. Mark, whenever you're ready.
Good evening. Yes, so yeah, we have a petition for 2 special use requests. They are independent requests. You'll see that at the very bottom of the petition is two separate votes for when we get down to there. One is for the Museum and Cultural Center. The other is for religious assembly. Few things here, that this is already an existing building with an existing parking lot with existing infrastructure. No proposed construction changes have been provided. If that is something they want to do down the road, that is something that they may want to consider. It is not a part of today's petition. It is the building as it is, 8,000 square foot building, 76 parking stall parking lot. So really is this an appropriate use of this particular location request? We're not getting into landscaping, we're not getting into the other sites and stuff. It is noted that during our review that the trash enclosure that's on site is in the wrong location. It's not a permitted location. Currently, there is a permit application in our office that is under zoning and construction review to install it on the south side of the building. So we're getting rid of that violation right off the bat. It's not actually part of this. We're handling it through the permit process. Additionally, it was noted that the address is unique, 721 East Madison, with no vehicular or pedestrian access to Madison. So we have discussed with the contract purchaser that if the zoning goes through and they move forward with the acquisition, we will be readdressing this to an Illinois Route 83 address. We're going to clarify all that stuff. When the property changes hands is the best time to make all these fixes, and we're taking advantage of that. Everything else, honestly, it's open up for the petitioner to tell a little bit about what's going on. But I just want to note, two different requests, two different motions at the end.
Okay, thank you. All right, presentation from the petitioner. If you've got a presentation for this evening, if you don't have a PowerPoint, you're free to be right here.
No PowerPoint, very simple. My name is Darius Water, D-A-R-I-U-S-Z, last name W-A-T-O-R.
Thank you.
And I am the attorney for the petitioner here. This is the Elul Beit Cultural Center. It is an Illinois non-for-profit corporation that was established a number of years ago to provide cultural and religious-based support for members of the community that they originate from. Many of them are from Iraq and other Middle Eastern countries, to provide not only support, not only to provide cultural-based education, but also to provide support for these individuals as they came to our country as immigrants, in order to provide things as simple as English as a second language classes, as well as other educational opportunities, support one another, give them a place to come back to provide kind of like a reference point for the countries and the cultures that they had originally come from. The organization at present is centered in Evanston, but they have been for the last few years looking for to purchase a property to provide administrative and logistic and administrative headquarters for the organization. They have been looking near and far and is settled on this property, put their offer down, and yes, they are the contract purchaser from the current owner of the property. The contract for purchase is actually about 9.5 steps towards being complete. The last element is actually something that was mentioned a few minutes ago, which is that we're waiting for the clearance of that violation and and a final permitting process to be completed to allow that enclosure to be built around the dumpster. Once that's complete, we will actually probably go to escrow, close on the property, and then complete the process of the construction after we are done with that. Fundamentally speaking, the purpose of the purchase is for administrative and logistical purposes for the organization. So the baseline purpose for the contract itself was that this building was of the appropriate size, location, and nature to provide the office space and structure to be able to run the organization. Okay. Now, the reason for the application process is because of the large amount of work that they do, cultural and religious. The organization felt that it was best to start this process and get the special use authorization for these activities, not based on necessarily the amount of these activities or the expansiveness of them, but just to have the necessary administrative authorizations. As was also mentioned, we are buying the structure as it is. There's no intentions of changing anything of the layout in the building itself. The organization will be taking over one floor of the property. The remaining tenants are going to stay for the foreseeable future. Any necessary work to perhaps improve the infrastructure of the property will be, for the most part, cosmetic at the beginning. The activities themselves, which to break them up into two constituent parts. The application for the religious assembly was mainly because the organization would like to, based on the geography and the location of the membership, have the opportunity to have certain religious activities occur at the location. So this may be religious instruction classes in the office spaces that are already in existence. It may be marriage ceremonies of a Muslim-based nature. Now, this does not mean that there will be wedding-based banquet facilities built there, nor will those types of activities occur, just the opportunity to have the religious ceremony itself occur there. There will be there will also be religious, well, I already mentioned the religious instruction. There may be counseling for bereaved family members of members by an imam. Also, again, limited in scope and size to the capabilities of the property. Therefore, we are not talking about an expansive number of people. Most of it would relate to individual counseling sessions between the family members and the imam. The other aspect to it was the museum cultural application for the special use on that side of things. Again, one of the purposes of the organization is to provide its membership with a structure and a baseline place to come back to for their own, based on the cultures that they originate from. Okay? Just give them a place to go back to have their children received either cultural instruction, linguistic instruction, okay? There was also the possibility of just having presentations by members of the community who may have something to offer in terms of the cultural instruction, historical instruction, etc. Not necessarily of an expansive nature, where, again, the facilities there are office-oriented, so we're not talking about an auditorium-esque type of college instruction, but personalized for a conference room to be able to have members meet with the individual who may be a member of the community, but also have the opportunity to have a location where they might have outside individuals come in and present to the membership itself. The main point, I almost forgot, there are also sports activities and clubs that the organization runs, especially for the youth and the children of the membership. So now, they wouldn't be obviously running sporting activities in an office space, but it would be a meeting point for some of those, especially the clubs that the kids engage in. So, but for the most part, most of that would be administrative in its nature, at a meeting point for the membership and engaging further on to wherever that activity may actually occur. But again, with the clubs, many of them are both religious and culturally oriented, so some of those meetings would actually, for those clubs and the club members, would actually occur inside the premises as well. I want to make one thing clear, and I was speaking before, this is the intention of especially the religious assembly is not for this to be converted to a place of mass religious meeting. Okay, this is not a mosque. There is already a separate location where the membership meets and has a facility for that. Again, the religious side of the application here is to allow for the type of almost individualized religious activities that I mentioned a few minutes before. We believe that the nature of the building, its layout, its location in proximity to both major streets and the neighbors is such that the allowing both of these special uses to be favorably voted upon would not intrude or impede anyone else's ability to work, live in the general vicinity of this building, particularly since we are not, again, changing any part of the structure itself or modifying it for altered uses. And therefore, we believe that this application is of such a nature that we hope that the board here will find it in the interest of my client's membership to vote favorably on both applications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, public participation and questions. So I would ask people to come up one at a time, state your name and address for the record, speak clearly, try to keep it to about 3 minutes maximum. It's a lot more time than it feels like. I'll try to give you a heads up if you're getting close to it. And then, address questions to me, and then I can pass them, we can have them answered all at once. That way we don't have to have people jumping up back and forth, because we are being recorded both here and on video, so I want to make sure whoever's speaking is in front of a mic. So whoever wants to go first, name and address, and have at it.
Could I just ask for you to spell your name also?
Okay.
Thanks.
My name is Patty Plattenberger, Plattenberger. My address is 713 East Madison Street, Villa Park. I'm here with many of my neighbors to object to the granting of this SUP. We believe that it will cause traffic and safety concerns in these primarily residential streets. I was going to talk about the address, but that's going to be corrected, but as everyone who lives in Villa Park knows, it is very difficult to access that property off of 83 because of the traffic on 83 and the traffic in and out of Walmart. So a much easier way to access, and it's being done now, is to come down Madison, park on our residential street, and access through that side. The front of the building is off of that frontage road, which doesn't appear to have a name, an 83. But if you've ever tried to go into that Walmart, you can see that the traffic is horrendous. And it is our belief, human nature being what it is that people will come down Madison either to drop off or to pick up or park on our streets. Now, that building's in a pretty significant flood zone, and that parking lot has flooded. My neighbors tell me it has flooded. And so when that happens, of course, people will park on Madison Street. And our neighborhood can't accommodate that type of parking. There's just, it won't work. So, and in the late 80s, early 90s, the village, because of the traffic concerns, made our street a cul-de-sac dead-end street. So I think by allowing this and allowing people to come, and again, human nature being what it is, to access off of Madison, also affecting Riverside, right there, would nullify all of that. A tremendous amount of work that was done by the village to alleviate that problem. So, some of the neighbors were at Tuesday's meeting of Traffic and Safety to talk about this, and we were shocked and surprised to find out they knew nothing about it. So they listened to us and responded that they needed time to study it, to figure out what this would mean in terms of traffic and parking on our streets. So we're asking, first of all, that this be denied, but in lieu of that, at the very least, give Traffic and Safety the time they need to study it.
Okay.
And
You're at about 3 minutes, so
Okay.
I'll give you a few more seconds if you need it. Are you good?
I just have one thing to add, which is I didn't get, I know that they should have been mailed out and that people within 250 feet taken out streets should have gotten this notice. I live at 713, which is right there.
Okay.
I didn't get the notice, and I don't think a lot of people did.
Okay.
I also have a petition that was signed by about 29 or 30 of the neighbors saying that they objected to
Yeah,
this.
so why don't you give that to me? We'll circulate it, and then I'll give it to Mark here to make sure it gets into the record.
Okay.
If you don't mind, if you don't have a copy, you could take some pictures and,
I have a copy.
yep.
I mean, I have one copy here and I have one copy at home.
We don't ever want to have to take the original, that's, well, we'll take the original, but I just mean we don't want to leave you without a copy.
No, I have a copy.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep. Right, whoever's next?
Hello, my name's Cole Lang, Colelang. Address is 734 South Riverside, Villa Park, right on the corner. Lang, yes. And I just wanted to just approach, I guess, and ask the question, how many parking spots did they say were in that parking lot? 76. And then approximately how many members are a part of this organization or group that would be inhabiting this area or this building?
Okay, yeah, that's a question we will definitely be asking, so I'll get you an answer for that.
And then I felt a lot of broad numbers, I guess, in there, but also like how many people would be expected to show up at a said wedding reception or whatever was mentioned in the report. I'd like to know how many, if there's 150 members, surely there'll be double in size if they have a wedding reception or whatever they were talking about there as well. So I just want to comment on the amount of spaces. There will be overflow into our streets, and obviously, I object as well, and I would just like to second what Patty said, that just be, too much space with just the overflow of traffic and such, so.
Okay, thank you, we'll be asking those questions for sure.
Henry Martins, Martens. I'm a 55-year continuous resident of Villa Park. I thank the board for hosting this tonight and inviting me up here to speak. In the 55 years I've been here in Villa Park, I can remember when Madison was open the entire length. Late 80s, early 90s, we fought hard to get Madison closed into a dead end. Before it was the dead end, in the morning, traffic would back up from the Route 83, bumper to bumper, west of Villa. After it became a dead end, we fought again to get it no parking in the dead end zone. We still have current office building tenants that park in the neighborhood and walk in. We've discussed the address on Madison. If you use that address and you search with GPS, you're routed through the neighborhood. In Madison and Riverside, there's a school bus stop morning and afternoon. Resident parking is only on one side of the street. It is a T intersection that if you have people coming from different directions that are unfamiliar with the area, trying to get down the dead end zone to drop off at the back door, the cul-de-sac is not a cul-de-sac, it's a dead end. So there's not enough room for standard cars to turn around. It requires backing up. So you have one way in, person backing up, and one way out. Depending on the size of the amount of people coming for Saturday, Sunday classes or worship services, it will turn traffic into a nightmare. The property, the parking lot, and the wooded area is deep in the flood wash. I've seen it a number of times where cars are fully submerged. The parking lot is approximately 4 or 5 feet lower than the level of frontage road. And when the creek comes out of the bed, the stream bed, it doesn't take long to fill that parking lot. It's an extremely hard place to find, and it is a much harder place to leave. If you go into the parking lot, the only access to that parking lot is north on a short section of frontage road. Parking lot is a beautiful parking lot. When you leave, you go south on frontage road, about 200 feet to a stop sign. The only person at that intersection that has a stop sign is people leaving the office building. The people coming in from the 55 mile an hour Route 83 have a turn lane that they don't stop. They come right in. The people leaving Walmart have 2 lanes of traffic without a stop sign. One is a turn lane, one is a turn north, and one is turn south. They don't let people in from the north that are sitting at a stop sign. So if you hold an event there that has 79 cars or 76 cars, and people leave, 1 car at a time gets out from the stop sign, and then it's a 3 to 4 minute cycle for another car to come out.
You're a little bit over 3 minutes, so if you could make
Okay.
a couple of quick points, and then,
We know other traffic issues in this town between the high school and the IFS school. People park in Cambria and walk through the neighborhood to get to those. Currently, Jackson has something on the Traffic and Safety Committee about looking at that. Ardmore School, if you drive through town, Ardmore and Harvard, or school in Harvard, when the kids are getting in or getting out, is impassable. If we're doing this for property tax, and this is a non-for-profit organization, what is the gain of strangling the community with the hazards of traffic? And the people buying the property don't want to be 1 year into it and realize they can't get out of their property. If we wanted traffic problems, we would live elsewhere. We're homeowners, we're voters, we're united in not wanting this. If we allow this to happen and we come up with a workable solution for the traffic in the residential area, how long will it take for Walmart to tolerate people parking in their lot and walking off their property? That is what I have to say.
okay.
And Ms. Court Reporter, 717 East Madison. I am next to the wooded lot on that property that no one maintains.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for hearing me.
Anyone else?
How you doing? My name is Louis, L-U-I-S, Cervantes, C-E-R-V-A-N-T-E-S. I live at 714 East Madison Street, right across the street from this building. And the same people who park on our roads now, I had an issue with them already, because they were making deliveries at this building. And they were there 2 years in, and thought I was having a decent conversation until I asked them if they could make the deliveries on the front side of the building. And they actually park right where that garbage can is, where the gentleman said they were going to move it. And having that issue, right now, they don't make the deliveries, they still park on the street. Every once in a while, one of their cars will pull up into the driveway, park, and there is a door on that side of the building, on the north side of the building, where people come in and out. I was hoping they could at least put a fence there, so that can't happen. A lot of the people come out of the building, they smoke on the back end. I have kids, I don't need more traffic coming through there. I have grandkids. We already get traffic there. There's a sign there, a traffic sign there that says, "Do not enter dead end." You can't even see it. So it's not big enough, it's not properly placed. So hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, how do we fix these concerns?
Okay.
And I agree with all my neighbors, and that's why I'm here.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, Matthew Plattenberger, Plattenberger, also at 713 East Madison. So when the meeting started, the lawyer got up here and said, this is going to be an administrative office building, which, seems pretty reasonable for that space. I'm not aware of any office buildings where weddings are held, team practices, or get-togethers, or leak signups. So I just want to be very careful that we don't allow this and then have a problem that we're not expecting down the road. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have comments?
I have some exhibits. I don't know if they go to you or to the court reporter.
You give them to me, and then I'll give them to Mark over here so they get into the record. Everybody up here will get a chance to see them, and then they'll go in the record and be part of the file.
Thank you.
Can I have your name again?
Henry Martins,
Thank you.
717 East Madison.
My name is Al Ashworth, ASHWORTH, 528 East Madison. A couple of these items have been addressed by the city already that I want to make sure it didn't happen, but I want to make sure they get, if this property is rezoned, that it's part of the zoning, that it's actually stated there's no access to Madison. That is one of our fears, that eventually something will change with the building and access will be somehow granted. We are afraid of that. They say right now they're not doing anything with the building, but 10 years down the road, there may be something done to the building, okay? And that I am also concerned about the parking situation there. I already have, if you come down Riverside Drive to make, come off 83, come down Riverside Drive, turn to Madison, it's the way I get home. There's quite often cars parked right there, even at the T of that street, which can make it difficult, especially if there's bad weather. So that's one thing I wanted to address. I question whether or not enough people were notified. 250 feet from what? To me, it should be from the very edges of the property around, and that does not seem like it was done. So I would ask that you have to redo this because of the fact that the zoning requirements was not done. I'm not positive on that, but I would like you to look into that. I'd also ask that if there's going to be any, since it's a commercial property, it's probably something. Okay. I forgot what I was saying there. If they're going to be any changes to property in the future, or for this type of zoning type thing, that would be expanded from 250 feet to 750 feet for more people to get knowing what's going on. But parking on that street, you cannot pass 2 cars and a parked car there at the same time. So if you have cars parked there, they're restricting it to basically a one-way flow. And even in front of my house, if people park a vehicle on the other side of the street, you always see the other car stopping and waiting for traffic to come through before they'll proceed. So if you actually have a whole line of cars, that will become a major problem. And also, again, restrict deliveries to the front side of the building, so the back side of the building would be very, very good. Thank you for changing the address. That was a major concern of mine, because right now we have people go up and down the street looking for that address. And that, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe Clemone, C-O-L-M-O-N-E, 742 South Riverside. I've been a resident of Villa Park for about 9 years now. I have 3 children, live right on the corner basically of Madison and Riverside. My 3 kids go to Ardmore. They wait for the bus every morning. They get off on the bus in the afternoon. There's maybe 4 or 5 other kids taking the bus in the morning or coming home afterwards. On Madison, there's constantly cars, zipping down the street pretty quick, turning those corners. Sometimes there's buses going both directions in the morning. There's not enough space for additional cars on that street. Also just, I grew up in a small town, lived in the city for many years, moved out to, a quiet suburb to have a community, and it's great to see many of my neighbors here today. As my little ones were learning to ride a bike, we'd always go down that dead-end street just because it was safe. There's nowhere else to go besides on the sidewalks, and the sidewalks are broken. So we'd go on that little area there, and if this were to open up and you were to open that access area into the building, that wouldn't be able to happen. The community has been growing. There's a lot more families. We've seen many people walking the streets these days in strollers. They're eventually going to be doing the same thing that I did for the last 9 years. So just want to say that I would also be against this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Fidencio, Fidencio Rodriguez, Rodriguez. And I agree with most of the comments here. I do have a question of what the hours of operation would be for this building. Seeing that I also have two little kids that are 4 and 5 years old, and you know, if there's going to be late nights or there's going to be loud people or coming access in and out, or mornings on the weekends that, you know, people usually stay in. So my concern is the hours of operation. Of course, all the parking situation, since I'm at 743 South Riverside Drive, which is right around the corner from the second building from there. So just want to address those concerns. Like I said, once again, the address being taken care of, that helps. But I am also concerned about the traffic. And like I said, some people don't even stop at that stop sign at the moment. So like I said, besides people flying by down Madison, but people just taking quick right turns, I can't imagine how much of a mess it would be for all these vehicles to be going through that area. And I know I'm being a little selfish with the kids also wanting to ride the bike around the cul-de-sac, but it is a nice space, like I said, because there is a lot of broken sidewalks where people have fallen, like my wife and stuff like that, from running and stuff like that. So if there's a place where we can have the kids be able to do activities like that, that would also be helpful.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Because this will be your last opportunity, at least at this hearing.
Hi, Angie, A-N-G-I-E, Rojek, R-O-J-E-K, 639 Riverside, so I'm on the same street. I just want to echo what everyone else is saying. I wasn't planning on speaking, I just came tonight because I wanted to hear what was going on. The one thing I will say is people are always parked on Madison to go through the office building, and also people go flying down our street as it is anyway, coming off of 83. They really zoom down it because it's a long street too. So I just kind of wanted to comment on that and just agree with what everyone's saying.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Angie. Anyone else? Oh.
Don Bijek, B-I-G-E-C-K. I'm sorry?
Dan?
Don.
Don?
D-O-N.
What's the last name?
Bijek, B-I-G-E-C-K. 632 East Madison. There was two things. This is a little off the beaten path, but everybody knows that we don't want people parking in our areas. If it weren't for the Walmarts that came in, we wouldn't have that cul-de-sac. As hard as the village always fought for it, or we always requested it from the village, it wasn't going to happen until Walmart come in. Walmart actually was the deciding factor on the cul-de-sac. Well, two things I wanted to let be known is that Walmart's has a nice parking lot there for these people. I know there's going to be an overflow over there, and they're going to want to park on Madison. Couldn't we get Walmart's to make a little arrangement for some parking over there for just in case of an overflow? And number two, I would like to see the stop and go light. There's a lights up there to prohibit you from making a right turn on red if you're over the white line, you know, where you stop at, and you get a ticket for that. I'd like to see that eliminated, make it much easier, because there's cars backed up, 6 to 10 cars waiting for the person that refuses to go through that light because it isn't an arrow. And right now, that's as far as I want to go.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. All right, I saw someone over here creeping up a minute ago. You still want to speak? Okay, well, you can come up and say that's...
Jim Stelter, S-T-E-L-T-E-R, 531 East Madison. L-T-E-R, 531 Madison. We were there before Walmart went up, and we were told at the time that the only way Walmart would be approved from IDOT traffic-wise was the cul-de-sac it was blocked off. When it wasn't blocked off, there were cars doing 50, 60 miles an hour, as somebody said earlier. It was bad. When the cul-de-sac went up, they slowed down to about 52 miles an hour. So it hasn't helped much. Parking is a big issue. That's what my concern.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Questions from the commission. I guess before we go into specific questions, are there any of those questions that you would like to address right now?
Sure. I think that may address
Yeah.
what you may be asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I know we haven't, well, I think we'll have a number of the same questions, and the more you can address, the fewer questions we may have regarding what was raised.
Sure. All right, first thing I would like to dispel is that I believe that there's a misconception of the size of our organization, that there's suddenly going to be an influx of hundreds of people into this building in the space of a limited time and a limited day. The reality of this situation is that this entire organization consists of 40 members, okay? 12 of whom work on the administrative side of the organization itself, and not all of them work at the same time because they're also working full-time. The board itself consists primarily of engineers, which if you're an engineer, you're working long hours. So this isn't going to be a situation where there's going to be dozens upon dozens of cars needing to access both the frontage road access back onto 83 and/or having to be parked there. Quite frankly, it's very likely that the volume of vehicles both parked and accessing that property is going to be right around the same amount that may have been occurring prior to the first floor tenant having vacated, because right now the second floor tenant is still there and is staying, and the first floor is empty but for 2 suites, and those 2 individuals are going to be vacating as well. So the first floor will be occupied by the purchaser / applicant here, okay? So just to address that, the nature and the organization of traffic flow into and out of frontage road off of 83 and back onto it, my client is very well aware of both the pitfalls and the benefits of having access to that area. Pitfalls obviously being described at length by all of the neighbors here, and the benefits are pretty much having access to Route 83, and you're on 88 heading elsewhere or heading northbound at a fair clip. So we are not talking about, again, dozens upon dozens of vehicles in and out of there on a daily basis. The staff, as I mentioned, the staff they contribute their time to the organization. So based on the size of the organization, you're not going to have all 12 administrative personnel in that office every day, all day. Most of their activities occur in the early evening hours during the week or during a regular, what one might consider business hours on a Saturday, on a weekend. So you're talking about 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening during the week, 10, 11 o'clock till maybe 2 or 3 o'clock on a Saturday for the most part. And again, those individuals that might have activities going on there or need to get administrative work completed. The impact, obviously, it's hard to say exactly what kind of impact that flow of persons might have on the overall traffic in that area. But again, I don't believe that it would be any higher than it would be if both floors of that building were fully occupied. Now, I can't speak to what has occurred in the past in terms of deliveries and parking on Madison, and as we don't have access onto Madison. We would be entering and exiting the building off of the permitted routes onto frontage. I guess the easiest way, maybe not the easiest way, but the most concrete way to address the concerns are new sheriff in town. The current party that's selling to us is an absentee landlord, let's put it that way. He is not on site. In this particular case, with the property being purchased by my client, that would, obviously, that would be, they would be on-site and be able to address those issues. Again, understanding that the membership and the administrative personnel would understand that whether, part of the parking lot is flooded over because of the creek or not, it doesn't matter. We have a parking lot, this is what you use. And obviously, if there would be impermitted parking by, other tenants, again, we're on the spot, and we're able to address those issues through proper regulations with our tenants and to a certain extent in cooperation with the city. So again, I understand the concerns of the neighbors on that Madison cul-de-sac. There's no intent of changing that arrangement. Again, we're buying an office building, and we will increase the population of that office building minimally, over and above what it is at this point. In light of all of that information, there are no grand plans for any sort of an expansion of the existing structure or otherwise, and see no purpose in attempting or planning or viewing the cul-de-sac and the cutoff of Madison from frontage to be anything but beneficial, actually, because it does cut down on the traffic for anybody that's at the building. Again, I think that in light of all of that, I just brought up, I think it does address some of the concerns, but I won't speak for the neighbors here to do that. But I wanted to address these things because I think there's a misconception of the exact scope and size of the entity that is going to be running its offices out of that. And one thing to speak to directly, I would beg to differ as to weddings occurring at offices. When I went down to Arizona for my oldest daughter's wedding down there, the civil ceremony, it looked like a storefront, for goodness sakes, in Pima County. So, and the justice of the peace, I think he was a travel agent part-time. So it was surprising. So I got married in front of Judge Wheaton in DuPage, so that was a little bit more, a bigger to-do. At least it was for me, because I like her as a judge. So anyway, that's all I wanted to kind of address, some of the stuff that was brought up in the open comments.
Okay. One quick question that also might help, if you know the answer. What's the biggest single occupiable space on the first floor, roughly?
You mean like in one of the offices?
The biggest, single space that...
I think it's an office space. It's almost like a conference room. I think it's like 10 by 20, Mr. Jawad? A little bit bigger than that, maybe 15 by 30. So...
Bigger than this room?
No, definitely not.
Okay, that's helpful.
How many office suites are on the first floor?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that, and I didn't look at the floor plan before coming in. Do you remember how many individual offices? This is Mr. Jawad. He is a member of the board of the organization, and he's been there, so obviously he's...
Yeah, can we get your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, my name is Ala Jawad, A-L-A-A, Jawad, J-A-W-A-D.
Okay.
J-A-W-A-D.
W-I-D.
A-D.
A-D.
J-A-W-A-D.
Okay.
Yeah, for first floor, it's about 5 to 6 offices, as I believe.
Okay.
I'm sure no more than 6 or 7, yeah.
Okay. Other questions specifically for the applicant while he's standing? I mean, we could always ask him to stand again, but...
And how many are on the second floor? Do you have any idea how many people are there on a given office day?
I believe they have approximately 8 employees up there who are there on a consistent basis. They run a property management business, so I think it's a little bit of an in and out there. but I think it's about 8 to 10 individuals. And again, there's the 2 individuals who are still currently present, who are renting out suites on the first floor, but again, those 2 individuals have received notice of termination, so that first floor will be opened up, and it will only be our organization on the first floor.
Okay. Council, I have a question. With regards to the tenants or tenant that occupies the second floor, within their lease, is there specified amounts of parking that come with the second floor lease?
No.
Okay.
No, the parking is open for all tenants, so there are no restrictions or limitations in that lease.
And you said the building was approximately 8,000 square feet. Is that divided equally between the first floor and the second floor?
Each floor is 8,000 square feet approximately.
And is there a basement on the building?
There is not a basement.
Mark, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If they needed to do, say, either expand into the second floor or any substantial alterations of the first floor, let's just say turning 5 offices into an assembly space, that would require them to amend the special use, correct?
Not necessarily. If we're okay with allowing the special use as is, they have the ability to work within the existing building as they see fit. If they
Okay.
expand it, then we're talking about potentially expanding the building.
But so are they asking, I guess the
Not
question
tied
is,
to a specific floor.
okay,
we're not-
currently as it stands, it's not, okay.
Correct. Yep. I can clarify some of the parking things that popped up if you'd like as well.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so on-site is 76 parking stalls and 4 ADA. So that's the,
488.
so that's the total parking on-site. We ran a very conservative model on our parking requirements for the museum and the cultural facility, and we overlapped the religious assembly on top of it. So you can't actually have them together, but we threw the numbers on top. Total required parking spaces for both of those is 30. So severely, what I would say, overparked.
So you're saying 30 for each of those?
No,
or
30
total?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it's only 40 seats for the religious assembly, 40 members, 40 seats. Even if they doubled that, we're not getting anywhere near the 76 and 48 for ADA per our code. So well overparked for what our code is. And as he said, the parking lot's in good condition, striped, it's all good from our perspective. No code violations on it.
Does that also take into account the second floor spaces of the?
Yes.
So you're saying that two-story building has a parking requirement of 30 cars?
Correct.
Okay.
At the proposed use, right?
At the proposed use, yeah.
I have a question, Mark. Is there a building occupancy limit for that building?
Yes. 1 second, it's right here. Under 50.
For the entire building?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's because of the sprinkler fire safety. So if the occupant goes over that, that would require them to retrofit sprinklers. No one's intending to do that, because the financial burden
It's
that
50
is.
It's 50
So
for the
under 50.
entire 8,000 square feet?
Yeah, for the building, yep.
That's actually what I was going to ask.
Sure.
Have we heard any feedback or anything from police and fire?
No. There was no violations on site. They've had an inspection for the fires, or for the fire inspectors.
Okay, and now, on Madison, is that no parking on both sides of the street towards the cul-de-sac, or is it just one side, which is pretty typical, and is it the south side or the north side there?
There's no parking east of Riverside on either side of the street.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Does parking still occur, even though it's posted?
Yes.
Once again, that's an enforcement issue with village staff.
More specifically, police department. Not commutable.
Is that I wasn't throwing anybody under the bus?
And the no parking is just east of Riverside. That's where it's posted, on both sides of the street for Madison.
There's one sign posted in front of the wooden lot, and there's one sign posted directly across the street in front of
710.
710.
Correct.
Which is completely covered military symbol.
He's correct. Two signs. Two signs.
Two signs. And then parking is permitted then west of Riverside on Madison?
West of Riverside. Hold, please.
He didn't, her name?
Correct, no parking on the north.
All right. One little comment I do want to make too is there was a comment about tax base and whether or not them being a religious use, or that's actually not something we take into account. We have land use standards and zoning standards that we apply. There's a list of them that are in the application, and we basically decide whether or not they meet those standards. If somebody wants to take taxes into account, that's actually not us. That'd be the village board. So we actually really can't consider that. So that shouldn't be a concern. Any other questions?
I have a question for staff. Mark?
Yeah.
Is it a gray area that a religious organization, even administrative offices, still needs that special use for a religious assembly or cultural? I mean,
Yeah, so that was part of the conversation about how do they apply. And that's why it's 2 petitions and 2 applications. The religious assembly, as he said, was for them to use as for their own members. So we added it on there to confirm that there wasn't any gray area if they decided to do that. If they were just offices, we wouldn't be here.
okay, because that's where I wanted to clarify,
Yep,
is you know, is the business side of
correct
religion still
business
religion
office.
or
No, it's
so
office.
we wouldn't the petitioner could go forward if they said this is strictly administrative offices.
Yep.
And it could still
Correct.
exist there on the
Office
first
is
floor.
an allowed use in the office research district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a couple questions. Should this petition be approved and ultimately approved at the village board level, is your operation staffed by the day? Like someone's there? Is there somebody acting in the building management capacity to field potential complaints from the neighbors because there's 25 cars that keep parking on Madison on Riverside? Will there be somebody that gets, or would we be forcing them to call in the village? I mean, what's the protocol in that type of a situation? Would there be somebody that's staffed, that's managing the building for you?
The administration functions normally. Again, not everyone, of the 12 administrative members, no one is there every day, 9 to 5. So essentially, what you're asking is are we going to be an absentee landlord?
No, I'm not asking that. Please don't put words into my mouth. I'm asking, will there be somebody there that's acting as part of this operation?
Yes.
Okay. Second question. You had mentioned on multiple occasions during your presentation that instruction was happening. Please describe instruction. When I hear instruction, I think of schooling. I think of 10 people in a room, multiple rooms. You say Saturdays, no idea what's going on. I mean, we've been given no sort of description about sort of about the operation. So the demand and the load from an occupancy standpoint really impacts these other conversations about parking. So can you please expand and explain the whole instruction component of the operation?
Well, based on the size of the organization, most of the activities are going to entail 2, 3, 4, 5 members at most. The instruction may be an ESL course. Okay, some of the membership are recent immigrants, so they may be doing, they may bring in a teacher who will do the class. It may be just other members assisting. There may be a religious study course, maybe reading the Quran. It may be other more culturally oriented classes. So when I say instruction, I'm just using one word for multiple activities where it's mostly the membership itself involved in engaging in those activities. Like I said, it may be simple as a presentation in terms of a culturally, something cultural from a region, that a presentation by a member of the organization from a region that they're from. Or it may be a discussion of current events. But again, for the most part, we're talking about administrative processes of the organization being handled in this office. And as was discussed, we applied for the special use because this is a nonprofit which is both culturally and religiously based. So we wanted to be forthcoming with the village instead of the alternative. So the notion of having multiple rooms with 10 or 20 people in them is just, numbers wise, very difficult, because again, the membership, they will get together on days where it's also convenient for them. They're not going to be there every weekend on a Saturday. They're not going to be there during the week on most weeks. It's when events are occurring or things need to be handled that they have a particular interest in or that they get called in to participate in.
Thank you.
Chair, I have one clarification.
Yes.
This is a good time. I want to clarify, I misspoke on the other one. I reversed my 30 number. They have 30 more stalls than required, not they require 30.
Okay.
That was my mistake. Sorry.
So it's a requirement of 40 some odd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So requirement of,
I said 40 some odd, yeah.
So yeah, I think when you round it, it's 50. They've got approximately 80, so 30.
Okay. And then for my curiosity, where is the dumpster enclosure moving to?
Sure. You guys have,
I've got a survey in front of me.
yeah, let's see if I can do, all right. The very southwest corner of the building where you can see the 20.5 dimension,
Yes.
in front of that between the curb and the building. So not building. So it's off the parking lot, north of the curb.
Okay.
We're in for a permit right now, has not been issued yet, still under review.
Currently, the garbage service is picking it up from Madison, though, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, there is a curb cut on Madison, actually, which is a bit odd.
Correct.
Because there's no driveway.
Also
And I'm
correct.
not even sure if that's legal.
That's why we're changing the address, we're fixing it.
And then my guess is, and the neighbors could probably speak to, you don't need to, I'll just assume, but my guess is that garbage enclosure has never been used? Because there's no sidewalk or any, I mean.
The garbage on Madison is used, that's where the trash.
But I mean, I don't think previously the dumpster went into the enclosure.
Oh, yeah.
It's left at the sidewalk.
That's true, yes.
Because there's flagstones on the north side, right? Not even a paved sidewalk? So that was a weird one, whenever that was approved or not approved. I know it was before your time. I'm not
sir.
casting blame, but
Yeah, we're doing.
I'm not sure how you would roll a full dumpster there, and you certainly wouldn't back a garbage truck in there. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, agreed.
Yes.
Can I address some of that? There is a sidewalk that runs along Madison. It is right at the curb.
Yes, but there's no sidewalk, between that and the building, though.
Right. But they do back over the curb onto the property and pick up a 7-yard dumpster one day a week.
Which we didn't learn about until we got our FOIA back from the city and found the violation and a little bit of the explanation of what was going on there. So we addressed it with the attorney for the seller, who then started this whole process of, well, you shouldn't be doing that in the first place.
Yeah, I believe that, because I actually ride by there quite a bit, and I'd never noticed it until I started looking at the property with this, and then we've got a dumpster sitting on Madison. That's not a good look.
Can I ask a couple questions,
Yes,
Jason?
please.
And I guess I should have done this, and I didn't. When I drove by the property, I went through Route 83 and through the parking lot area. But on the Madison side, is there access to the building from Madison directly?
Yes, there's a door on Madison.
I see that where there's a concrete patio.
With a flagstone walk from Madison up to the door, and that you could, on the survey, you can see the garbage enclosure marked out, but the dumpster basically sits on the sidewalk at Madison.
Okay.
And does not go to the enclosure, because there would be no way to roll it back and forth.
So
there's no sidewalk up the east side of the building. There is a path. There's a path in the old right-of-way of Madison. I mean, the old right-of-way of the frontage road. But
Right.
there's no sidewalk along the side of the building on the property itself.
So people who are parking on Madison, they are accessing the building from this entrance on the Madison side?
Correct.
Okay. Is it unreasonable that that door just be locked and no access permitted?
I think that would create a fire hazard. I think we need 2 exits.
You can exit it, but you can't enter it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of controlling key access to that door.
I may be wrong, wouldn't be the first time even today, but I believe we have to have, in order, since these are only only two exit points, I don't think we can have, I know what you're saying, like a key card, or just simply you can leave, but you can't come back in. But since we only have 2 exit and entry points, I don't think we could do that on that side of it. But certainly, we could do that.
The specifics of that are probably a little out of our purview to,
Well,
I understand what you're saying, limiting access to the north.
Right, and where I'm going with that is it unreasonable that there just be a fence along the Madison Street so that you can't access the building from Madison, that you have to go around to the parking lot and go in the front door? And that alleviate, if you can't access the building from Madison, then there would be no purpose really in parking on Madison or Riverside because you can't get into the building.
I just want to comment on that. I would imagine, Angie Rojek, yes. I imagine Walmart would have a problem with that because a lot of people are dropped off at the bus stop further north and walk through the Walmart that work there.
Well, you'd still have the little path.
You'd still have that right away.
Yeah, you still have the little right-of-way path there in the corner. You just couldn't get into the building or anything with a fence, blocking around the building.
Around the building.
Around the building. You could still walk through to get to the frontage road from Madison by a pedestrian could.
Can I make a comment again?
No.
Actually,
I'll make my comment. Mark, whenever we change the address of the building and then have the dumpster enclosure moved, can we have that curb cut removed and actually replace it with a curb? can we make that a requirement? That
You could
curb-
make that a condition,
Yeah, that the curb be put
because then it
there.
would be on their responsibility as opposed to
Correct.
Public Works.
And I know you don't have this information right off the top of your head, Mark, but perhaps we can get this information for discussion at a later date. How many accidents have there really been at Route 83 and Frontage Road there in the last 3 years?
I do not have that data.
I know you don't, but maybe we can find that information out.
Yeah, the way that exits out is a little,
I agree, it's
Odd.
awkward, but it's the way it is.
That's a condition of the property that the petitioner must have considered in their due diligence prior to
Yeah, oh, no.
making an offer on the property.
completely. I understand that, and it's just a weirdly designed intersection.
No disagreement.
Clearly
there.
designed to
Yeah.
favor Walmart.
I will note the village has undergone the very, very, very initial planning for redesigning that intersection in conjunction with Elmhurst across 83.
That's good to hear, because that is.
Years
a-
out there, because it's an IDOT project, but we have started the planning for that.
Well, I am in full support of Don's idea of taking the red turn camera out, in addition to the one on 22nd and 83 in Oak Brook.
One thing related to that, Mark, while you're listening, is that intersection actually does get used as a cut through to Elmhurst by pedestrians and cyclists, even though there's not a crosswalk there.
Okay.
Because there is a light there.
Right.
And then you're on frontage roads and residential roads on the other side of the street in Elmhurst. So I don't know how IDOT would feel about that, but we can't get crosswalks across 83 anywhere.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One thing I'd like to point out about that building, the parking lot is at a lower level. It is not ADA accessible. There's no ramp to the front door. That back door might be the only way
Yeah, so,
people with limited ability to walk can get in there.
yeah, and I would, that's one thing that I was wondering about too. I know that it's an existing building and you're not going to necessarily be required to bring it up to ADA standards, but is that something you or the client, your client, the applicant has considered? The building doesn't appear to be easily ADA accessible, and if it is, it's going to be from the north.
Full disclosure, no. We haven't gotten to that point yet of discussing that. Certainly, accessibility for individuals who may have those requirements is something that, a building owner, especially a building of this size and nature, needs to take into account. But we haven't discussed those specifics yet. They wanted to get in, buy it, get this part taken care of, and then address other issues as they come. Certainly, it is a consideration that has to be taken into account. But have there been active conversations? No, not
And
yet.
it seems to me that there are ways, you could probably do a ramp east-west at the main entrance. That would get you there. The other way would be a sidewalk that wraps around, but then that gets you back into, and then to the north, but that gets you back into traffic potentially from the north.
The only thing about that is obviously if it would be accessed, the traffic from the north for someone who may need access because they have disability, they're not parking over there anyway because you'd have to make your way over all of that back area there.
Right, as it currently is.
Now, in terms of to address one thing that was mentioned earlier, if it won't be a violation of fire code, then yes, we'd certainly be more amenable economically to creating an access or limiting access through that back door by simply making it a buzzer or creating a key card system, or simply just saying you can exit, but you can't come back in from that area. Certainly not ideal because, again, that doesn't preclude someone from exiting the building and going out that north side. There's really no, 100% way of precluding that from happening. But again, I think that one of the factors on that issue of potential parking along Madison as opposed to into our parking lot is the fact that, yes, there will be members of the staff of the at that point, the property owner on site who can then, for lack of a better word, police that sort of activity with any, whether it's membership or of the organization or other tenants in the building. Because that doesn't exist right now, because like I said, the owner of the property is off-site, and the second floor tenant is doing most of, if any, of the administration in the building. So that's kind of, difficult to have them enforce any kind of regulation of their own, it's like they're policing their own employees. Becomes difficult to kind of do sometimes.
Would the removal, would a condition of the removal of the curb cut on Madison, is that something your applicant is amenable to?
We can,
The reason I ask is because if we apply a condition, that special use is not granted without that condition.
Sure.
So if it's,
I wouldn't say there wouldn't be any reason why not, although again, I think that curb cut that you're talking about addresses the issue of the access by the garbage truck. I'm not sure how it stops individual pedestrians, but if it's a condition that the board feels would be, when I say pedestrians, individuals leaving our building to access onto Madison because they park their cars.
right.
Right.
Well, I mean, as an example, if the curb cut is there, even though it's not associated with the property, then there's always the potential for you proposing construction of, say, a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that would have to go through permitting and everything, but if the curb cut's there, that's less likely to happen.
Sure.
Additionally, just speaking from, I live in a neighborhood of corner lots with driveways on the side, short driveways, so I know a lot of people who use curb cuts as alternate parking spots for their vehicles overnight. So if you have an administrative, I'm just speculating, administrative or a member in the neighborhood, I could see a world where somebody pulls in their parks or delivery truck, pulls in on that apron, parks, runs to the back door, comes back. Not having that there maybe helps. Maybe it doesn't because people still can ignore no parking signs and park at the curb, but
Sure.
I guess my question is that's not a deal breaker for your client.
Mr. Jawad, that wouldn't be a curb cut in the back for that space, having one installed? I don't think that would be a problem.
But having the curb cut removed.
No.
It's having the curb cut removed.
Having it removed, rather,
Yeah.
sorry.
Because there is an existing curb cut there, so.
Mr. Chair, could you please address that with Public Works? The 3 homes on that street and that business, there's no stormwater inlets on that whole street. When we get a substantial rain, the water goes through that curb cut, across the property to the creek. So if you remove the curb cut, there'll be 9 inches of water in the street with my driveway the only place to go. And I'm already taking about 6 inches of water across it to the creek when it floods. So just.
Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
You could condition it,
With
remove it.
review of
With a
Public
permit
Works.
from Public Works. If they don't issue the permit because of the reasons as stated, then they've at least met their obligation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Any other questions before we?
Additionally, I can do a little clarification. There was a discussion of a potential fence condition. I would just be cautious. cautious you to pick a size that doesn't require variation, because that is the front. I'm not here to talk about a variation request for a fence height.
Yes, that's technically the front, so that'd be a 4-foot fence, which,
4 foot if it's open, 3 foot if it's solid.
Would it be the front if it changes address to 83?
It would not, it stays the front because it's the geometry of the lot.
Two places.
and if they put a fence there, they're gonna want a gate there, which kind of defeats the purpose of a fence, doesn't it?
Stands to
You would
reason.
want a gate there.
There is no, what is that? Pebble, fieldstone, whatever that walk is, that doesn't meet any sort of actual standard for us, so that's not a pedestrian access. It's just that 4x4 stoop off the door. So I would not be inclined for a gate there. Doesn't go anywhere.
No.
Okay, so, any other questions before we move into discussion? And then, excuse me? As far as the occupancy of the building, I don't know, that's not something we review. That gets done in the permitting process. And so I understand. I trust me, it's something I fully support of. What is your name for the record, please?
My name is Michelle Ashworth.
What was your last name?
Ashworth.
Ashworth? Okay, thank you.
Same as your last name.
Okay. Before we move into our discussion, do you have any closing comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we have the condition of the curb cut removal pending review by Public Works. Does anybody have an issue with that?
No.
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 Okay. There was a mention of a condition of a fence on the rear of the property. I don't know how I feel about that personally.
Well, I would actually want more information on how effective it could be before we made it a condition or anything.
Okay.
And I'd like to explore the possibility more in depth as well of access to the building from Madison and restricting access to that door.
Yeah, so
Or entrance, anyway.
But restricting access to the entrance is not something we're going to be able to do.
No.
That, I mean, that's kind of,
But I think it's something
I understand what you're saying.
I think it's something we need to, find out for the next meeting.
It's my hope that with the modification, if you will, to the postal address of the property, that a lot of the concerns that we've heard today would be self-corrected, because Google Maps would, one, self-correct to find the actual true entranceway via 83 in the frontage road itself, and then secondly, we've already addressed the enforcement issue publicly, so I would hope that it's also addressed by the village board itself, along with routing that through our police department for the sake of all the residents that came today to rightfully complain of the lack of enforcement in your neighborhood already.
I want to discuss a little bit more the need or the desire for a fence to grant that special use. It doesn't necessarily have to be a wire or wood fence, maybe not, but maybe some type of barrier to dissuade people from coming on or off the property from Madison. I think that's not unreasonable to ask for. I think people are in habit of going that way. And I think that, along with the address change, would make it very clear. I think that's the only way I could see fit to go on a special use, and I'm still not 100% convinced on that. My concern is on it's like a carte blanche after the fact of granting this, that anything can go from here on to the future. So if those other tenants leave, this can become a full religious organization here, and is it the right location for it? That's suddenly this parking might not be sufficient. It doesn't belong in that area per se. I don't know. I'm still stuck on the fact that administrative duties could be carried out there without the special use.
Are we in the discussion part?
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with that. I'm not, there's not really a lot of information. There's a lot of talk of what might take place or what we might do, or we're not really sure yet. And I'm not ready to grant a special use for something that we're not really sure of yet. Generally, whenever we have hearings like this, we have documentation in front of us that gives us all the information on what's going to take place and how it's going to take place, where everything's going to be, and that's not provided. So I kind of agree with what you've said. It's to give a special use prior to really having the, yes, this is what we're going to do, I can't grant.
Okay. The occupancy capacity, rather, maximum mark you said was 50, 50?
Under 50.
Under 50?
Yeah.
Under 50. Okay.
So I would, one point that I would agree with Mike and Dominic on is that we're pretty, I think of the package we got for St. Paul's when they were adding a vestibule to the back, and I mean, they were adding a parking lot too. There were changes there, but on the other hand, I also understand, as a small organization, you have a vision of what your organization will be when you move into a space, but you don't really know until you're in it and you're using it and your membership is coming, and if you've got administrative staff, I don't know if they're volunteers or if they're paid, but who aren't full-time staff, who are coming in off hours and in their free time, it's a bit of a different organization, and it's hard to nail down. So I do understand that aspect of it too. My primary concern with it is minimizing impacts to Madison. Because while it's not, if Madison didn't exist to the north, we wouldn't be having any of these conversations. We probably would be voting and we'd be done. But it is there, so we have to consider it. So I don't know it's so much the use as what the use's impacts are on the immediate residential areas, to me personally.
Chair, along that, just real quick, a few of the conversation regarding the additional membership or growing in size. From a parking perspective on what they already have, they could triple their membership and still meet the parking requirements per our code. They're at 40, 80, they can go to 120 and still have enough parking per our code and what they existing have without any additional improvements.
Yes, and
even if they decided to grow, they'd still be good from our perspective.
Right, and any expansion of the use, like in addition to the building or...
Different animal, right.
would be an amendment to the special use.
Right, because we're talking about what's.
And really, even any significant change to the property, like, as an example, they decide they want to wipe out, they don't need the southern 20 spaces, so they're going to wipe them out and turn that into a soccer field.
Right, because you feel comfortable.
They'd have to come back.
You feel comfortable, look how big the parking lot is now, you're approving it for what it is now. That's why that plat of survey and that site plan is attached. That's the document that you're all granting this, potentially granting this on. Yes, in addition, well, that's not what we talked about. You cut your parking in half, that's not what we talked about. But anything they do within the building that's existing, we can work within the request that they've asked for.
They could very well triple their membership, but they're still limited to under 50 unless they want to sprinkler the
Exactly.
building, which, as I'm sure everyone recognizes, is a tremendous financial overhaul.
Exactly.
So I'm generally in support of this. I just want to be clear. I'm in support of it with the curb cut or the removal of the curb cut condition, because the petitioner would have to undertake a tremendous financial overhaul to sprinkler the building if they wanted to expand and go beyond the current occupancy maximum of 50 persons.
Additionally, on the fence, if that is a condition that ends up being placed, just for reality, it'll be 20 feet from where the sidewalk is. That's where the property line is. So it's carriage walk, 20 feet, and then will be a fence if that is a condition. If you're gonna go that route, I recommend 4-foot black aluminum.
4 foot what?
Black and
4-foot black aluminum.
You, from a distance, you'd call it wrought iron, but it's
Yes,
not.
correct.
In
We don't actually wanna
Chicago,
do that.
in Chicago, we call it 4-foot ornamental fence.
Yeah, correct, yep. Along the length of the Madison Redway.
Just for the record, we would have no problem with the fence.
Okay. As you said, to be 4 feet, it has to be opaque, which means ornamental, so, yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess that leaves us with those two conditions. Is there consensus that we could make a motion this evening? Or do we have a number of people wanting more information before they vote?
Additionally, if you want to take it one step, you could condition no vehicular access to Addison from this property.
I'm sorry.
No vehicular access to Madison from where?
This property, from formerly known as 720.
Yeah.
Madison.
That's impossible.
I mean, there's no road that currently exists there, correct?
Currently, you want to lock it in? Condition it.
That would require the village's support, correct?
Whole thing, right. I get it.
Okay. But I mean,
Right.
I guess it doesn't hurt to add a condition that
It's solidifying the removal of the curb cut so that in the future you can't apply for a driveway permit.
God, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
No vehicular access.
Driveway permit?
Correct.
Mark, I want to clarify, are you suggesting that this existing building has a maximum occupancy load of 50 as exists?
Correct, yeah.
How are we calculating that number?
Through the International Fire Code with consultation with the fire department. We also haven't seen the plans for the future layout. and
Regardless
everything,
of that, well, we don't care about the future plans, we care about the building that's there.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's a 16,000 square foot building.
Yeah, at the assembly, or the use that it's at, in office, non-assembly.
So they're saying that that's 50.
Under 50, yeah.
I thought it was 8,000 square feet.
No, it's 2 stories.
Stories at 8,000, it's a total of 16.
Total 16.
Yeah.
Currently, they're,
I question that number, but that's just me. Because I know from a building code standpoint, that's not, this thing's 100 people, generically. And so I don't see how fire becomes, I don't see how the fire code rate becomes more liberal than the building code in terms of its rate. But we can check that, because I have that's just my... Did you get that 50 from, I mean, did the fire tell you that? I mean, where's that number coming from, Mark? Out of just curiosity.
Yeah, in consultation with the fire
And then,
department.
okay.
and that was based on the full 16,000 square feet, not just 8,000 square feet?
Yeah, they
Okay.
they have their fire inspection report for all the buildings and
Got it.
consulted with them regarding the specific.
Could also relate to there only being 2 exits. 2 exits.
And that it's not sprinkled, and so they're
sprinkled.
sort of limiting the occupancy to that number, then that,
Also true.
so that's sort of capping it based on the facility as it exists.
And construction type and
Correct.
fire alarm and put it all in a blender.
Everything exactly right, yeah, and then you get a number. Mhm.
You'd almost need 2 doors on each side.
I'm not even gonna.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
To bring it up to
Right.
the,
Yeah.
No, that's, yeah. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What's your thought?
Larry, Mike, Dominic, what are you thinking?
With the conditions that we've discussed, I would be comfortable with the vote.
Okay. You hear that?
I know.
Oh, he did.
You said something
I-
like,
Dominic said that he would be comfortable with the vote with the 3 conditions.
the 3 conditions?
Yeah. And I'm not asking if you're voting yes or no. That's not my question. My question is, Mike and Larry, do you feel that you have to have more information to vote?
No.
Okay. Justin, do you have those conditions?
Have not been typing, but
I can
believe that I can.
we could discuss them
put
really
something
quickly.
together real quick. Yeah.
So the first condition would be removal of the
Cut on Madison.
the Madison Street curb cut
Yep.
pending review of Public Works.
Approval of Public Works.
Yeah, pending approval of Public Works. That's better. Addition of a 4-foot ornamental fence along the north property line. And a condition of no vehicular access to the property from Madison Street.
Just to clarify on the fence, are we talking about a fence to extend upward to truly cut off traffic, or are you just thinking?
I believe the property,
This is the lot line here, and there's the sidewalk.
If you look at,
Like north from the east
again,
side
the
of the
site
building?
plan, the Plata survey, where you see Madison Street, the 210.48, page 505 of the staff report.
You stuck in this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, so it'll stop where cross is at property corner.
it would be from
Madison
here
Street.
to here,
To there.
which at that point, you might as well walk around to the front. Right?
See, I wouldn't even need, I mean, if that's what the condition is, so be it, but I would think just something like this if they don't want to go.
Yeah, I think staff understands our intent, so that if they want to go with a smaller fenced area with an east-west with, as opposed, I think along.
I think it'll also make the street view.
Yes,
feel more
I think so
appealing as
too.
well. It's a dual purpose.
Right now, this is very over.
Yeah.
You're talking about less fence for sure, but I think this will give it a nice finished.
Yeah.
I'm good for,
this-
fence is the condition, the aesthetics of it. and-
This is grossly off.
It's simply the fence along the north property line?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on to the street, I can see in the pictures.
Okay. I think I've got a proper language.
Okay, before we move into motion, does anybody have any other comments or questions?
Clarification, are all three of these conditions going on both of the requests?
That's my understanding.
So then,
Yeah, they're,
just motion it as such so that they're.
yeah,
There will be two separate motions.
yeah.
Thank you.
Both the motions should include the conditions, just in case the votes don't shake out here or at the village board level.
Correct.
The conditions are applied to both.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got it for both.
I made just one question, because we had talked about that, the enclosure for the dumpster.
Mhm.
Do you want to handle that based on the permit application?
Yeah, you're already doing that. Yep.
Or not a condition?
We're already doing it. Not you, the property's in violation and we're starting a resolve, so. It's gonna be hard to get to that dumpster when you put a fence up too, so.
And no curb cut for the dump truck, the garbage truck.
Exactly.
Whenever, if anybody has a motion, I don't see other discussion.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. I will make a motion to recommend approval of PZ 220016 for a special use to be granted for a museum or cultural facility upon the following conditions. 1, removal of Madison Street curb cut pending approval of Public Works. 2, addition of 4-foot ornamental fence along north property line. And 3, prohibition of vehicular access to building from Madison Street.
Could you strike that and make it to property from Madison Street?
Prohibition of vehicular access to property from Madison Street.
Thank you. We have a second for the motion?
Second.
We have a second. Questions or comments on the motion? One thing I did want to say too, real quick, is that on the record, village staff reviewed the petition and was supportive of the request. That's part of the memo. That will be in the public record, but I wanted to make that clear. So we have a motion and a second on the approval of the special use for museum and cultural facility. A roll call vote. Calvert?
Yes.
Hofstra?
Yes.
Ludke?
No.
Orlowski?
No.
Romano?
Yes.
Schlinsky?
Yes.
I too vote yes. With that, our recommendation will pass to the village board, who can accept, object, or accept, reject, or modify. All right, so we need a motion for the special use for the religious assembly.
Make a motion to recommend approval of PZ 220016 for special use to be granted for religious assembly upon the following conditions. 1, removal of Madison Street curb cut pending approval of Public Works. 2, addition of 4-foot ornamental fence along north property line. And 3, prohibition of vehicular access to property from Madison Street.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Questions or comments on the motion? Roll call. Calvert?
Yes.
Hofstra?
Yes.
Ludke?
No.
Orlowski?
No.
Romano?
Yes.
Schlinsky?
Yes.
I too vote yes. With that, our recommendation will pass to the village board, who can accept, reject, or modify. And that will end our public hearing. The public hearing is closed. Good luck moving forward, and Thank you to everybody who came out. Appreciate it. We usually have no one here. We can't even get Mark here some nights, so thank you. No, Mark's been here every night.
Oh, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Are you anxious for the bike traffic to get back going?
Yeah, that's why I put
We're not.
I've read the
Oh, yeah, that's
paper
right.
stuff to I can't. There's an article that I sent to the group, sort of thread.
You sent it back in January.
Yeah, yeah.
So are you good to power through a few more minutes?
Parking
You need a
sort of
break?
stuff,
Okay.
yeah, how do you-
It should be quick. We're basically
Be
done.
overparked and sort of correctly
Oh, well
parked,
then,
yeah.
sorry. I thought you were handing
It's a quiet
stuff.
spot.
Yeah, I'm totally aware, which is why I
Where do I
tweaked
live
it
in
pending
Villa Park?
public approval.
But I can
They're
walk
like,
to
nah.
all the services.
Then we just have the fence that's still.
Downtown
I actually use that. That's how I cut over to Elmhurst on my road bike when I don't want to go over the trail.
Exactly right.
My son uses that to go to Walmart on his bike.
Not yet.
You can jump down onto that frontage road, and it takes you down to Eldridge Park and
There's only a little piece of Lombard
Spring Road.
Brush Hill down by Elmhurst
Yeah, I
Memorial.
crossed Route 83 there.
But that intersection is,
There's no 88 stalls.
especially like,
because
you think coming out of there south on a bike,
And then come back
on a
out,
car
exactly,
to
yeah.
make the left turn and cross 83, like, yeah, but
No, it's an awkward intersection for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, they could redo the intersection.
yeah,
For their property.
we're basically, we just have
we need a motion to
Properties work.
pretty much. I know there's some exciting news though.
There it is.
Oh, they got the rumble? Yeah.
Well, that's an 88.
Yeah, right. Yep. Yep.
So,
To nowhere.
Hey, guys.
So it's like.
If you guys could move the conversation outside, we've got a little bit more to take care of up here. Thank you. That's okay. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
So then it's gonna make it up to the May board meeting.
April 10th.
Oh, April 10th.
You're at April 10th, yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right, anybody wishing to speak on non-agenda items? I don't see anybody.
Oh, no. What's happening at Ardmore and North, the old Martin's Big and Tall? See lots of construction happening over there.
Yeah, so it's going to be a dermatology center.
Nice.
They've got a few permits going for interior work, exterior, and the parking lot.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent.
Can I piggyback off of updates?
Sure.
The plans that were approved, or the petitions that were approved by us, and then also, I believe, approved by the board for the building that is currently still labeled as Hair to Stay, that was going to be some kind of drive-through cafe.
Yeah.
Is that getting any traction or movement, or do we have any updates regarding?
That is a special use
It's right
by,
there?
Yes.
Yes,
Right there?
yeah, right.
Next to Walgreens.
No conversation with them.
Okay.
He just walked away.
Can I address it?
yes, please.
Yeah.
Come on up.
No.
We swear you in.
Nick Cazone, C-U-Z-Z-O-N-E, 21 West Adams Street. We did have a person that asked to put in a type of they wanted to put in a beer tapper with some food and gaming. And after talking to the board was not really in favor of something like that. It was something similar to what Red Arrow used to be in Elmhurst. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But you get a card, you put money on like a credit card, and you go and they have some tappers set up, and you can pour as much beer as you want, and you get charged by the ounce. And it's for a small place like that, and they were just going to have some limited food. The board really was not real in favor of that.
It also highly deviates from the plan that was presented before us in the first place.
Yeah.
Right, so that was the last that we had contact with them. That was probably 2 months ago.
Okay. And if I can ask another village-related question to our president. Echo Terra, the development, I understand that you guys have I think, biweekly meetings with them, or had biweekly meetings with them, with the weather changing, seasons
Correct.
changing. Do we have any proposed timeline on
No
that?
real update right now. I don't know if
They're still operating under the demolition permit. It's
Okay.
still good for another 45-ish days. So
But they have not applied for an extension?
they have not applied for an extension, nor have they final submitted their plans for the construction.
Okay.
It's this weird limbo period.
Yeah, we were hoping to have a representative at the last board meeting, and they declined to have somebody there. The owner was out of the country. And we're hoping, I think the second meeting in March, we should have some update from them. They should be there. We're hoping to do that.
They have been invited to that meeting.
They've been invited to that meeting.
So then also, I believe both of the zoning changes for the old Odium site and the one we did on St. Charles were approved by the board.
That is correct.
And one quick thing before, I don't want to steal Mark's thunder on the comp plan, but
Feel it.
I'll lead with the boring stuff. So March 22nd, 4 to 6 p.m. at Iowa Community Center, there is a
the junior league?
No, there is a community meeting with Civil Tech regarding the Villa Avenue improvement project, which I believe is being done in concert with Elmhurst as well. Am I correct on that?
Yes, because in that area, it's a shared right-of-way.
Yes,
Down
so
center line instead of.
Civil Tech is doing a review, an engineering review for improvements from essentially Wildwood to North Avenue along Villa. Part of which would hopefully include serious cycling improvements to make our section of the Salt Creek Trail actually cyclable.
Yeah.
Because that stretch of Villa is horrible for that currently. So,
Wildwood to North?
Yes.
On Wednesday, the 22nd?
Yes, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Iowa. And I believe it's, my understanding from the memo is it's going to be a open house style meeting, so come in, probably look at the different options that are being presented. Probably, I don't imagine there'll be a formal presentation. Maybe there will be, I don't know what they're, but usually those styles of things are casual. Come in, walk around, talk to people, give them your comments, write down your comments.
Tell them you want a bike path.
Tell them you want to bike there.
I'm gonna
And
pick
then
your brain
the-
on that one.
And then it also says they're accepting written comment until April 5th, 2023.
Sounds right.
So,
I'll come with the screaming baby.
Yeah.
I have a question. What did you say? Something tech? ISA
Civil Tech?
Civil tech?
Yeah, I'm going to give you the spelling of it. I think it's, I don't remember if it has a C at the, an H at the end or not, but otherwise it's just like it looks. Yeah.
H at the end.
CIVILTECH.
One word.
Yeah. And then the village board approved the funds and the contract with Housel Levine for the comp plan update.
Who is it?
Housel Levine.
House?
HOUSELLAL.
Ready? HOUSEAL LEVIGNE. Yeah.
Yes, they're a planning firm. They're an incredibly reputable firm, one of the, I would say, more prominent in the planning world space. There's a lot out there.
Comp plans is what they do.
But yes, yeah. Comprehensive plans is their game. The other thing that I like about them, just as a firm, is that they are pretty heavy on the community outreach, just as a firm. Heavily involved with the APA and the AICP, and in a way that a lot of the other other planning firms are less so. So I was glad to see them as a selection. That's all I have. Anybody else have
I
anything?
do. Any word on the Villa Avenue project? Downtown Villa Avenue?
They are finalizing their pro forma for the ask on their redevelopment agreement. So we're waiting for those numbers to actually get solid before we can negotiate the RDA.
And then have we heard anything out of the property owner on Park Avenue by Ardmore?
27 West Park.
27 West Park? Nothing?
The last time I talked to them was last year when they were turning their water off before it froze. Which I don't think it actually froze this year. But no.
But yeah, if you get a chance, go by the old Odeum. They're cranking on that
Steel's up.
building.
Yep,
They're
steel's
cranking
up.
over there.
The rec center, will we see the presentation? There'll probably be some
Yes.
special use or variance or whatever?
Correct. Minimum special use with a subdivision, TBD on any additional requests such as variations. We're hoping not. I'd like to go just straight use, but I didn't decide it.
Yeah,
Do
my
we
understanding.
anticipate when that's going to be coming?
What's the expected submittal? Soon. Like they're wrapping up, because I can't apply, because I have to review.
Right.
So Williams Architect is actually going to be the applicant on behalf of the municipality. So they're wrapping up all their documentation to submit to us, so we can actually do the review as a third party as best we can.
Yeah,
be.
exactly. Mhm. Yes.
But yeah, soon. And then they have to actually notify 250 feet, same thing. So it's going to be a full-blown public hearing for that particular use.
Yeah,
If it becomes a multitude of requests, would you consider PUD on it?
I would consider it, but I don't think we're going to, I don't think we'll get there. Yeah.
I think there was some concern, I don't know if it still is there, because I haven't seen the latest plans, obviously, but there was some concerns about whether they would meet the parking requirements, because they're relying on 100 parking spaces, some portion of the parking spaces from the...
Drastically increased their parking by my internal reviews.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because I know initially they were going to save money by not...
Yeah, you'll see. Yeah,
Okay.
It's
Okay.
parked pretty good for the phase one.
Good.
And there's a multi-phase approach. It'll all be on one plan.
Good.
Takes time and money to grow.
Sure.
Anyone poking around on Robinette's property? Robinette demolition?
Yes, Robinette.
Because I know it's all for, the whole thing's for sale.
Yeah.
I believe that's ROBINETTE.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty good. Yeah, so they are trying to put together a team. But again, that's not in our municipality. So, but yes.
Darn.
I know. I'm trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Lufkin still, is that a concept or is that going? Is that going to happen?
We
A little-
We awarded the design, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's going?
They're going. Funding's there.
Okay.
It's honing in on design and then bidding. So budgeted and granted. So like the grant money.
Yes.
Yeah. That's Lufkin, Lufkin.
You should stop
It's a
naming things
park.
after people.
Need more Smith Parks.
And then all TIF discussions are on hold until the union is solidified?
Yeah, so you guys probably heard the public hearing on
Canceled.
March 13th has been canceled. Yeah, so that'll be republished and redone.
Yeah.
What was the agenda at that meeting to be?
Public hearing on the creation of the TIF.
Just to create it?
That was the...
For the St. Charles corridor.
Right.
Correct,
Yeah.
Oh.
yes, correct. That was a single purpose meeting.
Got it.
Between Cal and Village Board. It was gonna be Cal, Committee of the Whole.
COW.
Committee of the Whole, yeah. Speaking slang, I'm sorry. Between that was gonna be the public hearing.
Got it.
But we're pulling it back as we hone in on the numbers.
All right. That everybody's questions?
Yes, thank you.
It's a lot of stuff that needed to be asked.
Yeah.
Apparently.
It's good that we have
We didn't
things
have a
to
meeting
ask
last
instead
one,
of
so.
what's not happening.
Yeah.
All right, unless there's anything else, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
9:31.
Aye.
We're opposed, we're opposed. We're adjourned.
You should bring it, thank you. On this end of the table.
Yeah.